we'll begin. Okay, so a few announcements for today. The 1.14 enhancement release is happening January 29th. So keep in mind of that if you are working on new enhancements. Also, some news with regards to kubectl independence. We now have a logo for the repo. Once we establish a new repo, feel free to take a look. I think I can pull it up here. It's looking really nice. And we'd like to give a huge thanks to Ashley McNamara for her work on the logo. Moving on, we have some test grid updates. So as you know, or as you may or may not know, anyone who's a member of the SIG is free to sign up to be on call for about 2 weeks to take a look at our test grid, keep track of any flakes or any intermittent failures, and just overall keep the SIG up to date with what's going on with tests. I believe for the past 2 weeks we had Menchki on call. Is Menchki here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Perfect. If you'd like to take the floor for a bit and give a status update if you have any, feel free.
So during the past 2 weeks, there are two kind of incidents. So one was there was a stockout issue on GCE, which caused a lot of our testing broken. It was resolved, and they are green. Another incident was the testing in AWS is broken. It's still broken now. Someone is working on that. So in the reason is that the AWS project is running out of credit, and someone is putting back money on that project to get things running. So I have updated the document. You can see the two incidents.
Okay.
That's all.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. So yes, I will take a look at that incident report. Moving up, we have either Phil or George with a discussion on Helm or Helm templates as customization YAML base. Is Phil or George in the call? Okay, I don't think that Phil or George are in the call. So we will come back to that topic in a bit if they join. We will move into the second topic, which is talking about default plugin location. I believe Maciej, are you taking this topic?
Yeah, I can take this topic. So basically, currently our plugin mechanism that we have implemented always searches your plugins in the path, in your execution path, which basically means every binary with a kubectl prefix is automatically discovered in path, and that gets turned into a kubectl plugin. There was a proposal to have an additional directory under user home directory.kube/plugins, where aside from the path, we would also look for the same pattern. The benefit of this approach would be that we would have a central place where you could keep all your kubectl plugins. Honestly, I don't see any downside of this approach. It definitely makes the plugins even more usable. So I'm just looking for opinions what other SIG CLI members think, whether it is okay to include that directory in the search path for kubectl plugins. If I don't hear any objections, we will go ahead with the implementation, especially that 1.14 is the version that we are hoping to GA plugins.
So this is Matt Farina here. The whole plugins and where you put them is a recent thing we've been dealing with on Helm. because one of the use cases that has come up is, yeah, you have them locally, you install them, but sometimes you want to install system-wide plugins, right? And in some environments, people don't even have access to install the plugins. It's installed by an administrator into a higher level directory. And so this has been an ask, and I'm trying to remember, I'd have to dig it up, but we actually had specific use cases and organizations that wanted this. And so you'd have the hierarchy of where do you put them and how does that work? And so one of the things we started to look at over there, and we can do breaking changes right now in Helm, is actually using the XDG standard on this. I just dropped the link into chat here. And the idea is here's a standard around the hierarchy should work in a system. So that way you could have them, say, in your home directory, you could have them in a system directory. And here's the standard for how the hierarchy works. So you can have more than one place to stick that plugin and have stuff worked, and because there's some other use cases out there. And so I would say, since we ran into this and we started off with that plugin directory over in Helm, you may end up with that next tier up as well. And we discovered there's actually a standard for this. And so I wanted to drop that in just to share to help you out here.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. I'll have a look at the standard after the meeting. It does make sense to have to follow the standards if we already have some in place. And definitely one of the concerns that were raised in the original issue, it linked in the agenda, was that the users do not have the ability to install system-wide binaries. That's why they want to have a user-defined directory. So I'm hearing your voice as yet another +1 supporting the idea. The suggestion is just to follow the standards that are available.
Yeah, and it's a little different from what Kube does today, so I'm not sure it would fall out, but you could probably do something very similar. The details are in there. I haven't mapped it to Windows, and you'll see it's on the freedesktop.org site, so I think it may be more POSIX based, but I know others have mapped this whole thing to Windows, and so if you go beyond it, you can find implementation details on where people have put things on Windows and how that works for the same kind of thing. This is now you know about the extent of what I know on it because other people have been chasing this down in the projects I'm working on.
Okay, perfect, thanks.
Yeah, and I mean, I could also see us doing a mixture of this standard plus the default directory, possibly in home.cube plugins, just in case to cover all our bases. But yeah, personally, I would be also in favor of making people's lives easier when deciding where to install plugins. Okay. Does anyone else have any comments, questions, concerns regarding the topic of choosing a default plugins location? Okay. Hearing none, let's move on to the next topic, which I believe it's also Matcha, outdated SKU tests in TestGrid.
Okay, so as you probably noticed, those of you that follow SIG CLI mailing list, is that George Berkers reached out to us asking for what to do with a set of 1.10 SKU tests that we are running for kubectl.
Yeah, they're actually not. I dug into the logs, and they're actually not. They're labeled 1.10, but the tests are not necessarily running against 1.10. Some of them are actually running against current master, and others are running against 1.12 for some reason.
Okay, so that's even worse than the initial thing that I stated. So I think our SIG, since we do care about the fact that we want to maintain backwards compatibility, sorry for the background noise, I'm in a sort of noisy place. So definitely we want to ensure that the backwards compatibility works. From the threads that are happening between SIG architecture and SIG CLI, Brian even wants us to have a N-2 backwards compatibility. So I think it is reasonable to straighten out the tests.
Okay.
And
so do you want me to move
start
the tests to the SIG CLI board?
Yeah, Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's reasonable, and we just need to ensure to update those in time for 114 release, which will be the starting point for when we will start executing those. I might reach out to you, Josh, with help about how to set it up properly, or feel free to redirect me to, I don't know, SIG test.
Yeah, no, you'd have to talk to test info about that.
Okay,
Someone has been updating these tests sporadically. So if it's not somebody on this call, I don't know who it is.
I'll have a look at the Git history for the file, and if not, then I'll just reach out either to Aaron or Steve and try to figure out how to update it properly so that it actually performs what we will be wanted it to test. For 114, my goal would be that we at least test n-1. If we set it up in time for 114 to do n-2, awesome. If not, the world will not collapse, but at least n-1, because I'm pretty sure that these kind of tests we have in place. I'm not sure if we have a proper infra to do n-2 at this point in
time. I'll submit a PR to move the tests. I'll also rename them to take 1.10 out of the name since it's deceptive.
Just name it kubectlsq. I would defer from putting a specific version over there. It's just pointless because I'm pretty sure that folks will forget about doing those.
Okay.
Thanks, Josh.
I'm gonna just as a plus, I'm gonna look into this as well, Mache. It was something that I was gonna have to look at anyway, and so I'll dig into this as well.
Everyone, sorry I'm late.
Perfect. Thanks, John.
Sounds good. I guess if we're ready to move on to the next topic, now that Phil is here. Phil, are you ready to talk about your topic regarding Helm and templates as customization YAML base?
I'm not sure if Phil is the right person because I remember that Phil put it in the agenda, but it was George or Jorge, sorry, that did not show up the last time, so we just moved it to the next one. But I'm guessing that since the person did not show up second time in a row, we'll just forget about the topic.
We can delete it for now, I guess, and they can re-add it.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So I guess we'll move on to, unless there are any more comments on the current topic, we will move on to customize integration PR, as well as this blocking issue. Is this Jingfang by any chance? And is she here?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. This is Jingfang. Okay, so currently we have an open PR for integrate customize into kubectl as a subcommand. And we have finished all the work almost. There is only one blocking issue, which is to decide if we want to require API version and kind in customization file. So I want to share. Can I share my screen?
Yes, you should be able to share now.
Okay, so we have an issue tracking the discussion of allowing API version kind as absent or requiring those fields. And the discussion involves several parts. The first is what is the proper API version and proper name for those fields. And finally, we decide that we will have this as the group name, customize.config.k8.io. And the version will be v1 beta 1. The canned name will be customization with capital K. So that's the the values for those fields. And now, do we need to require those fields? We tend to allow them to be present, since in this case, we can support our current customized users. They won't see the breaking changes. But we do see that if we require those API versions and can't, there might be some other benefits we can get from it.
I guess my main question would be, are we loading these files using the API machinery loading mechanisms? Okay.
No.
If we are not, then I don't have strong opinions either way. I would like to know what the plan is for versioning, documenting that. Like if there were changes that needed to be made in the future, what would our plan be? Would it be to rev the version and then start requiring explicit V1 in the future? If this is charting new territory by not using the API machinery loading, it would just be good to know what the plan is for moving forward.
Yeah, so we could write it down, make that into a web page on the site, for example. So far, all we've been doing is on the infrequent occasions when we want to deprecate a field, we'll figure out some migration pattern for the field, if that's possible, mark it deprecated, provide warnings, and then at some point cut it off. So far, we haven't cut anything off yet. We've just been marking things as deprecated. It's pretty much the way we, treat protobuffers inside Google. So, yeah, we can just write that down somewhere. We've basically been pretty friendly about keeping backward compatibility.
Yeah, I mean the config stuff, since you don't have to round trip it, that's
right.
Nice. Right. I was also going to ask if when we pull these files in, do we warn if there are fields we don't recognize, or do they just get dropped?
We will warn those fields if we don't recognize them.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I think that seems reasonable. Tolerating these versions here, if these fields are specified, they have to match what we understand, and then what our strategy is for moving forward in sort of additive, incremental, compatible ways that wouldn't require a version bump, as we've been doing. And then if in the event we did have to make an incompatible change, what the approach would be.
Okay, we'll document those.
Is anything else blocking the PR then at that point?
No, that's the only issue blocking the PR.
Okay, so it sounds like we will we're going to allow them. So we need to add the code to demand that if they're present, they have particular values, and we'll be good to go.
Yes.
Expecting integration. We'll also make we'll also write the documentation for how versions will be treated.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the fact that you have history on some of these sort of in-place migrations, or in-place, taking a field and transforming it to the next revision, that's helpful to point to, examples of what has been done in the past and what is anticipated to be done in the normal case. That'd be helpful.
Yeah, sure.
The update to protect remote bases, the transitive stuff, did that actually get pulled into the pull request in progress in Kubernetes, or does that need to be re-rendered? I saw it merge, but.
Infang, is that
it's merged, but it hasn't been rendered into the integration PR.
Okay.
So once the API version count issue is fixed, we make the change, we add the doc, we will release version 2 of customize. Then in the integration PR, we will render customize version 2.
Okay, great.
Okay, sounds good. I guess, is there anything else with regards to this topic, Yingfang?
Could we just make a note of that? The next steps, that the remaining items.
Yeah, we can make a note of it in the agenda. Okay. I guess, if anyone would like to add any remaining items to it, feel free.
I can add that.
Thanks.
I got it. I'm gonna mute.
Okay, so while that's being added, does anyone have any questions, concerns with regards to this current topic? Okay, hearing none, we will begin transitioning to stand-ups. I see we have 2 stand-ups so far, but if anyone else would like to do an impromptu one as well, feel free to, at the end, shout out your status or anything cool you're currently working on. So we'll begin with Sean.
Sure. So this one will be short. Haven't accomplished anything in the last 2 weeks on the kubectl independence initiative. I hope to get back to it within the next couple weeks. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. Maciej, do you have something?
For myself, I announced 2 weeks ago that I'll be refactoring package kubectl. There are a few leftovers from the cleaning that we did in the previous release. I started doing the cleaning. It's the PR I have only locally. It's a mess. I'll try to clean it up within the next 2 weeks and put it together and submit a PR.
Sounds great. Thank you. Phil?
Yeah, just a small update. I'm updating the SIG CLI charter scope to be more targeted and focused on the way we design our tools. So I linked the PR in there, and I already have some great comments that I'm in the process of addressing.
That's great. Thank you. So I'm guessing, is this a mailing list discussion or I guess it's a proposal at this point?
Yeah, both the charter and the kubectl customized integration updates were posted to SIG CLI mailing list. So just follow the links for the PR.
Yeah, for context, if for context, I'll publish things to the mailing list if eyes on them. Not everyone listens to their GitHub notifications or checks those regularly, and especially people who don't get assigned the issue might not have an easy way of finding them. So I try and just publish to the mailing list because I think a lot of people have an easier time managing their mail and can set up filters more effectively there. But discussion should always happen on the PR.
Thanks, Phil, for doing that one.
Yep, thank you. I guess for myself, real quick, so I am working on a PR which I'll actually open, sort of tackling one of the remaining bits of kubectl independence, mostly with convert. I'll open it just to start getting consensus on how much code duplication we want to tolerate for commands like convert, which depend on server-side bits. And yeah, so be on the lookout for a PR. I'll be sure to link it in the next SIG CLI meeting if possible. If anybody else has a status update or wishes to talk about anything pertaining to the SIG, feel free to do so now. I see Ahmed's here. So Ahmed, I guess if you have anything crew related you'd wish to update us on as well, feel free to do so as well.
Not really. We're trying to basically still work out how we can open source the project, how we can get it out of the door.
Gotcha. Well, thank you. And hearing no more status updates.
I had one. We had talked for a while about having a way to surface warning information to users, whether it's in response to use of deprecated APIs or fields or unknown fields, or using like an out of support kube control version, or there's just a lot of different reasons we might want to surface information to users. I have a work in progress kind of proof of concept exploratory pull request. I intended to get that into an official proposal for 114 and didn't make it. So I will probably work on a proposal over the 114 timeframe and try to get this out for review over the next couple months and try to get something like this into 115. The idea being that as we get more things that are kind of nearing the end of their deprecation lifecycle, it would be great if we could let users know, hey, you're using a thing that's going to break in a release or two, instead of them finding out after they upgrade. So the more we can do to surface the current state of what a user is depending on, especially if they're depending on old things that have been announced, as deprecated and are going away, but not everybody reads 100 pages of release notes, understandably, the better. So I will link to that, and no action required now, but if you have thoughts or feedback, that'd be great.
Sounds great. Thank you. I'll keep an eye out for any proposal link as well. Oh, I see about it. Great. Okay. Does anybody else have a status update? Okay. Hearing none, we will adjourn the meeting. We will see you in 2 weeks, and thank you for attending. Bye.